Hey guys, I'd like to set up an introduction to the video that's about to follow. Yesterday we whipped out some videos for you, and I had every intention of some certain flours arriving that didn't. So I tried to improvise and did a second recipe, which you can see on the video was a big flop, which is great. We've been gluten-free for 11 years and I'm not a baker. I am a cook. I like to cook, I like to experiment, but baking frightens me because of the percentages, and it's like a scientific experiment, and I'm not a scientist. So you can see in this video that it was quite a flop. I want to tell you too about a couple of things. Yeast. Play around with the yeast. I've been playing around. Our recipes that we have work for you. It's a couple of teaspoons, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then we increased it yesterday and increased our yeast so that we could make a faster product and it would rise faster. So we even increased it to like 3 tablespoons of yeast. And the flavors work for bagels, a little bit of sugar, but as research shows on the Google, you don't always need sugar to let yeast rise, and you can let yeast rise for overnight. It all depends on your preference in the kitchen. So the recipe my daughter has on her website, which I'll show at the end of the video, originally back in October had a couple of teaspoons for sugar, for yeast to sugar ratio. Well, yesterday we increased it to tablespoons and it worked. The bagels were freaking huge. They were awesome. They tasted great. There's not a bagel left from the buckwheat flax meal recipe at all. We ate, I don't know, bagels and chicken last night. I don't know how, but it worked. I wanted to also tell you, it's been, like I said, a long time since we've been baking, and at first when a recipe would come up and it had like more than like white rice flour and tapioca, and I was like, what the hell do you think I'm gonna do with all those flours? And I'm here to tell you, you have a freezer, get the flours that I said in this recipe and put them in the freezer afterwards. You can use them in the bread recipe that I have on the other video with the bread and the bread machine. Switch out. Take out some brown rice flour, and I think I even mentioned in the video that that's what I usually do, and that's what I usually do. But you can even switch out, I think the flax meal that I had in that recipe for you, switch it out with a little millet, a little amaranth, flax meal, quinoa. We did that yesterday. We improvised. We didn't have certain flours, so we improvised. You just want to make sure you have the starch replace the starch, and the flour proteins, the flours, replace the flour protein, and you will be so surprised. So get the ones I said in this video and just throw them in the freezer. You'll not be disappointed. And I have to tell you, in case you see this, because you can hear like, oh crap, buckwheat's disgusting. What am I, like, chewing on tree bark? No, I promise you. Do I look like I chew on tree bark? No. These bagels taste like real bagels. And if you have been a gluten eater before, you want that flavor. You will get it. I want to just tell you the recipe that is not in the video that you're going to see. It has the arrowroot. Arrowroot is great for bagels. It's good for baking. And it just made awesome plain bagels. And those are the ones like I told you before, and like I told you in the video that you'll see, like we could add chocolate chips to it and everything. So let me tell you, 3½ cups of arrowroot, 1 3/4 cup of tapioca, and 4 cups of white rice flour. In that recipe that I had done, that we did not show you in the video because we're missing the arrowroot, is also 4 teaspoons of salt, 10 teaspoons of xanthan gum, and here's where the yeast mixture comes in. This worked for this recipe. You can increase the yeast, so don't worry, but we used 4 cups of the lukewarm water. You don't want it too hot, you don't want to kill the yeast, but you want it warm because you want to activate that yeast and get to using it, sooner than later. So we used 6 teaspoons of yeast to 9 tablespoons of sugar. Now, in the video that we showed you, I increased the yeast to sugar ratio because I wanted it to go fast, and we made mammoth bagels, like I had mentioned. So it's all experimental, but you can use these guidelines and it will work for you. I didn't want to hold off this video any longer and wait for the arrowroot to come. I have no idea what happened with the shipping. It was supposed to be here on Tuesday, and now I'm not getting them till Saturday, and this doesn't mean anything to you when you're looking at this video, but let's just say it was a week putting off the video, and I didn't want to do it. So, recap, the video you see, you're going to see a mistake. Awesome. 11 years doing this, you're going to see a mistake. It worked awesome. It was a great mistake. You're going to see the video of the buckwheat and the flax meal and just different alternative flours. That works. Don't be afraid of it. Buy them. go to all those fast services you can get, Amazon, Vitacost, anywhere. You can get some really great gluten-free flours if they don't have them at your local grocery store. Put them in the freezer. I promise you, you will use them. And use Google. Heck, that's what it's there for. Enjoy your baking and enjoy the video. Back to the kitchen of gluten-free cooking. This is the bagel recipe that you guys have been asking for, and my kids have been clamoring for some bagels, so we're gonna get to it. Already inside the mixing bowl we have, and let me just read it for you, and we'll have my daughter's website posted on the end of the video so you can look at it in written form. But inside here, the flours that we've used, now I've used alternative flours. We also have a basic one with a lot of white rice flour, which it comes out to be looking like a regular white bagel. We'll use that at the end, but this one's a really different one, so I figured I would try and start off with this one first, and I think you'll all love it. We used in our original recipe some arrowroot. We didn't have any arrowroot available to us today, so we used 1/3 cup, 1 3/4 cup, of potato starch today. We used 1 cup of tapioca, 3/4 cup of buckwheat, 1/4 cup of quinoa, 1/2 cup of flax meal, 1/2 cup of brown rice flour, and 1/4 cup of white rice flour. Now, in the past, instead of the quinoa, we used amaranth, and you can use millet. There's tons of choices, but those are the different flours that we've used to get a high protein. And inside here, we have our 2 cups of warm, hot water. Not too hot, you don't want to kill your yeast. We have active yeast. We have 2.5 tablespoons, or up to 3 tablespoons you can do, of active yeast, and 4 tablespoons of sugar. I let it beat on medium for a couple of minutes. Actually, my mixer is really pretty good, so 2 minutes is really tops of what you need. You don't want it to be too blended. You know, you just want it to be incorporated. If you have, depends on your mixing machine, maybe you need a little bit more time, but mine didn't need very much. So I'm gonna cover it and let it sit for 30 minutes and let it rise a little bit more. In the meantime, we're gonna get our big pot of water. You can put a little canola oil in if you want, so that you can prevent a little bit of sticking for the bagels. And you need to, when we form our bagels, we'll get to that point, we're gonna form our bagels. We're going to stick them in the boiling, rolling boil water, and they're gonna float to the top. I think it takes maybe 30 seconds for it to float to the top. The second we do that, we're gonna scoop them out, drain them. We're gonna put them on our parchment paper. Parchment paper will be great because then it won't stick to your pan. And it'll still get golden brown. And when we're doing that, I'll show you, we'll put some fixins out. We're gonna put some stuff on top of the bagels. We're gonna put some salt. The kids like brown sugar and cinnamon bagels. I'm sure I'm gonna be get a request for chocolate chip bagels. So we'll have a whole variety. We'll let this sit and mix for a while. And let me just tell you some alternative while we're waiting for that to rise, and then we'll cut back. The basic recipe, the basic white recipe. We like to play around with different flours, higher protein, higher fiber content. My oldest child loves to eat alternative and raw, and so by default everybody tries it and loves it. So I made these recipes with this one for the younger kids and this one for her, and everybody wound up loving hers just as much. So I only did this today, and I'm going to do this or just tell it to you just so you have an alternative. But this one is a great, great recipe. So I'm gonna put my reading glasses on because I have my bifocal contacts. But here we go. So this recipe right here, it's over here, is 1 3/4 potato starch, 1 cup of tapioca, 1/2 cup of brown rice, 1 1/4 cup of white rice, and 1/2 cup of millet, just to give a little bit more protein. And of course our 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, so that's the generic basic one, and this one's our high protein, high fiber. Cut back and see you in a minute. Well, welcome back. I forgot to tell you very important things in the recipe, but again, it'll be on my daughter's website at the end of the video. But 2 teaspoons of salt, and how about our xanthan gum? We are gluten-free, and this is a recipe I took from my deli, which is a gluten deli, and we used to make bagels, and we took this recipe, and these are the dimensions basically of the recipe. But to make it gluten-free, we added 5 teaspoons of xanthan gum to this, okay? I want to also tell you, keep in mind that any kind of experimenting that you do, you're gonna do some crappy stuff. You're gonna make some crappy things. And you should have seen the flop we just made while you were cut out, while this was rising. It was hysterical. I think it's called goop that the kids make, and it falls, and it's like they do it in the second or third grade, and it just kind of slides out and looks like an alien form. We just had that in this kitchen. And now we're baking it to see what it comes out, so we'll let you know if it comes out to be anything. Or it could just be something that the dogs can nibble on or throw around like a Frisbee. Okay, so anyway, the other recipe that we're not gonna use that today, we're using this alternative one with the high protein flours. The other recipes, you just basically use the white rice flour. Again, that'll be on my daughter's website. We'll have the basic white flour traditional bagels, okay? So our water's boiling, our ovens are on 400, and now what you do, and I like to just get my hands wet, so I'm kind of cheap because I have the water right here. I kind of keep my hands wet, and you just form the bagel. I mean, you just nice and airy. See how nice and airy that is? And I just kind of play around and form a bagel. I'm sure people in New York are like, holy crap, that's not how we do a bagel. Well, you know what? When you're doing gluten-free, that's how you do a bagel, okay? Just like that. And I'm gonna just lay it here so it's easy for us to throw in the water, in the boiling water. It comes and rises about 30 seconds, and I take a strain with holes in it, the spoon, slotted spoon, and lay them back out, ready to bake. You can use your parchment paper, or I also can use canola oil and line up the pan with some canola oil. And I'm going to put some fixins on the top, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, we're just dropping the last of the bagels. They are popping up to the surface pretty fast, so I'm just going to flip them over with our slotted spoon. And our oven's almost all the way done. And my assistant is adding toppings. Oh my goodness, we like the everything bagels. So we've got garlic and onion and sesame, and we're gonna do a few sweet ones. So these are mammoth bagels. Our oven's at 400. I have a convection oven, so we're gonna use convection. So it'll get nice and toasty. And that's how we do it. Just bang that excess water off. And we'll get it going. And we'll be back to show you our crunchy bagels. All right, we're back. We've got our bagels. We've got our garlic seasoned with onion and sesame seeds and our cinnamon sugar. And we have our flop, which turned out to be some rock and garlic bread. We took a mistake. We put some olive oil on it with some garlic, granulated garlic and some parsley, and we baked it at a 400 degree oven for about 20 minutes, and we have some garlic bread. Look at the end of this video for my daughter's website, and come back in about a week or so. I'm gonna have another bagel recipe with the alternatives. Since I made a mistake, I ran out of flour, and that happens. I hope everything's good with you in your kitchen. Happy gluten-free eating.
Okay, do it again.
And here's our bagel recipe.